All right, Sandra, you can go ahead and do your intro.
Thank you, Brad. Good afternoon. My name is Sandra, and I'm going to be your language interpreter for the day, your Spanish language interpreter for the day. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Sandra. Voy a ser su intérprete de español el día de hoy. I'm going to give you quick instructions as to use the language interpreting feature on Zoom. Les voy a dar una breve instrucción para usar la función de interpretación de Zoom. On your computer, please find the interpretation globe icon at the bottom of your screen once we activate the function. En su computadora puede buscar el icono de globo terráqueo que dice interpretación en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Choose English as your language and make sure to not mute original audio so that you can hear the main room. Seleccione español y si solo desea escuchar al intérprete, puede silenciar el audio original o mute original audio. If you're on a smart device, look for the 3-dotted menu and choose language interpretation. Desde un dispositivo inteligente puede buscar el menú de 3 puntos y elegir interpretación o language interpretation. And we can go ahead and activate the function.
Okay, ready to go?
We're ready.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'd just like to start tonight's meeting with a deep sense of gratitude and thanks. First of all, to our partners in education and IB, San Diego High School, Principal Franny Del Carmen, IB Coordinator Nerit Vardy Cohen, our German Coordinator Birgit Schaefer, and also special thanks to the German government for over a decade of support for both of our schools in providing German language acquisition pathway. Lastly, I just want to thank both of our superintendents, Dr. David Schiaretta and Dr. Lamont Jackson, as well as the commitment of both of our school boards for supporting German at both of our schools. To highlight a few points from Dr. Schiaretta's letter to the community regarding the current status of German language pathway for both schools, AEA has had an unwavering commitment to IB and the German language, which we have supported financially with a partnership of the German government, as well as the San Diego Unified School District vis-a-vis San Diego High. With that said, unfortunately, the current reality is that our colleagues at San Diego High do not have the student numbers to sustain a German pathway and will be sunsetting the program as of 2025. We are looking at possible opportunities to keep the German language flame alive, but would like this opportunity to share with our community our current reality, and also to offer an opportunity in the spirit of transparency for questions and answers from our community. So thank you all for being here. We're going to try to answer everybody's question the best we can. We might not have all the answers, but we promise if we don't, we'll get back to you. And thanks again. Do we want to open it up for questions?
Yes, we did actually have a few questions that were sent in by email. And if I could read the first question, and then maybe Nivit, if you want to share your answer to that. One of the questions was, does middle school German meet college foreign language requirements, and what documentation do we need to ensure that?
So according to the colleges and universities, as long as students complete 2 years of the equivalent of high school German, they have met the admissions requirements to get into the university system. That can be done at the middle school level, and we do have schools within the San Diego Unified School District who do that. Roosevelt does a Spanish 1, 2, 3, 4 program. Keep in mind that each number refers to a semester. So semester 1, semester 2 makes a full year. Semester 3, semester 4 makes a second full year. As well as Longfellow Language Academy. And with the number of years of Spanish that your students do in middle school, I'm presuming that the majority of them would be able to meet that requirement. Having said that, I did talk to your administration because that has to be reflected on your middle school transcript that those language levels were taken. That is then automatically transferred onto the high school transcript. And currently it is not reflected on AEA's transcript, but I know that your administration is looking into making that accessible on the transcript. So yes, there is that possibility, and that is the requirement.
Thank you.
Did I answer the full question? I'm not sure. There were two parts to it.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
But then the next question was, can you advise what level the German AP test is compared to with relationship to the DSD test? And it is between the DSD-1 and the DSD-2. The DSD-2 is has a little bit of the same structure than the AP German language and culture test, but it is harder because it's a combo test between the B2 and the C1 level. So students are usually prepared first for the AP test, and then take that AP test in 9th grade, and then the DSD test, the DSD2 test, is given later when they are in 10th or 11th grade. There is a question in the chat box. What will be the options for the current 8th graders?
So if current 8th graders come to San Diego High School, we do have 3 language options that will be available to them. We have within the IB program, we have French B, which is for students who have a significant number years of previous knowledge, and would be starting at a 7-8 honors level. We have Spanish B for students who are native speakers or have a significant number of years of knowledge, and who again would be starting at a 7-8 honors level. And we also have a French ab initio level, which is for students who have no previous knowledge of the French language at all, and students would be starting at a 1-2 level and doing 3 years of language in order to be able to do their IB assessments and examinations. So they would be doing a 1-2, 3-4, and 5-6 level as a strand throughout their high school years.
And that's in our world of IB. We also have our partnership with San Diego City College, where we host currently right now American Sign Language that is offered to our 11th and 12th graders, as well as we're looking into the opportunity to have our students take German at San Diego Community College at the 100 and above level, already accruing community college credit at still the 11th and 12th grade levels.
There was a specific question to the ab initio class and the difficulty of a student entering that class in 9th grade on a diploma pathway in 11th and 12th.
So the ab initio curriculum is specifically created for IBO under circumstances like this, where they have students who are, for example, moving from country to country, and the language that they have studied, they have no previous knowledge of the language that's being offered at their new school. So in the case of your students, we've talked with the IB organization, their previous experiences in German. There is no German continuation program in IB in San Diego. So IBO has authorized that they do ab initio. Ab initio literally means in the beginning. That is a direct translation from the Latin. So it is not unusual for a student to have 3 years within their 4 years of high school. The way the 3 years are done is it can be done in one of 2 ways. A student can start at a 1-2 level in grade 9, and then they would do their 3, 4, and 5, 6 levels in grades 11 and 12, which are the IB years. Or they can start their 1-2 level in grade 10 and do continuum of grade 10, and then 3, 4, 5, 6 in grade 11 and 12. The students have to have no previous knowledge of the French language at all. This is completely from the beginning. And the evaluation for this is still accepted by IBO. It is done at a standard level, and it does apply for students who want to do either a coursework pathway and just do an IB language, or for students who want to do a diploma pathway where language acquisition is one of the 6 groups which they have to take courses in.
Is there a
Marie-
Spanish ab initio offer? Is another question.
Unfortunately, we are not currently allowed to offer a Spanish ab initio program because of the locale that we live in, where such a high percentage of the students have a previous knowledge of Spanish. And while we understand that your students may not have a previous knowledge of Spanish, at this point, we have been limited to doing it within the French language. Now, having said that, and I'm sure Ms. Franny will echo the same thing, if a student wants to come in and not do an IB pathway, as she said, there are a number of other language options, but a student could come in and if their family said, you know, we live in San Diego, we're not interested in an IB diploma pathway where language acquisition is a specific IB component, but we would like our students to just continue with language while they're in high school for entrance into college. A student could start at a 1-2 level in Spanish. They just could not do it into an IB pathway. So that, you know, the level that they would start in Spanish would be dependent on their previous knowledge, but they could start at a 1-2 level if they're interested.
And Nuri, clarification of IB pathway, IB diploma.
No, by IB diploma or because there's no ab initio test at the end of the 5-6 Spanish.
Neri, could you maybe clarify again the difference between the IB diploma and the IB certificates?
I'm going to
in
share my
college?
screen. So what I've done is I put into the chat, but I know that sometimes documents that are put into the chat before you enter aren't always visible to everyone. So I will put them in again, but I have put in an IB program overview document that you can download and keep for yourselves at home, as well as an IB document with acronyms and definitions. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen and I will bring up, let me just give me one moment. I just have to bring it up on my screen head here. I will bring up an IB program overview because I find that it's easier for you to understand it if you can see it. Okay. All right. Okay. So the IB diploma program offers 2 pathways. So if you're thinking of this with relationship to, for example, a student going to college or university, the IB diploma program might be the student's overarching major, for example, engineering. And the 2 pathways would be a student who's doing civil engineering versus a student who might do mechanical engineering. So each pathway has some overlap, but they also have their own specific guidelines. Within the 2 pathways, there are 4 specific components, and they're exactly the same. The first component and the first 3 components in the diploma pathway are known as the IB core. So you see one pathway says diploma and one pathway says coursework. So these are, like I said, your concentrations within your major. The diploma pathway, the students must complete all 4 of the bulleted components that we're going to talk about this evening. In the coursework pathway, the students have an element of flexibility. So again, if you're comparing it to collegial environment, the diploma pathway is very much like an engineering pathway in college that is very prescriptive and very defined. A student who goes into engineering can pretty much from day 1 have a 4-year plan set out for them. Whereas a student who might go into a humanities major has that flexibility and can be choosing courses from a number of different areas or designing their own major. So the first 3 components within, or the first 3 bulleted points are, as I said, exactly the same. They are known as the IB core, and they consist of a course called Theory of Knowledge, creativity, activity, and service, which is the students' participation in extracurricular activities and their reflections upon those activities. The difference between a student just participating and reflecting is what defines it as IB. And they do it according to some IB guidelines. And the extended essay, which is an independent, self-directed research paper, finishing with a 4,000-word research document. Now, as I said, those who are on the diploma pathway are required to do these three components. They do not have a choice. The students who are in the coursework pathway can select whether they choose to participate in these components or not. Now, there is the caveat that at San Diego High School, any student who's taking an IB subject course takes the IB Theory of Knowledge course. That's an automatic, we've always been a theory of knowledge for all of our IB students. But they do not have to do the creativity, activity, and service component, nor do they have to do the extended essay. Although some do choose to do that. They can do 1, 2, or all 3 of them, or none of them. The fourth component is where the biggest difference lies. The biggest difference lies here in the IB coursework. IB has 6 subject groups, very similar to the UC CSU A through G, or the San Diego Unified School District guidelines and the California Department of Education guidelines. They're based on subjects. They call them groups 1 through 6, and I've listed them here. Group 1 is studies in language and literature. For us, this courses in brackets are the courses we offer at our school. So we offer English literature, and is considered language A or primary language. Group 2 is language acquisition. And as I said earlier, we have French B, French Ab Initio, and Spanish B. Group 3, individuals and societies. We have a history of the Americas course. Group 4 as the sciences, biology, chemistry, physics. Group 5, mathematics. And group 6 is the arts, or if students don't want to take IB film and they have the prerequisite knowledge, they can choose a second language or a second science. So for example, my oldest daughter chose to do 2 sciences. She did both biology and chemistry in preparation for a pre-med major in college. Whereas my youngest daughter, who studied rhetoric in college, decided to do 2 languages. She had enough previous knowledge in both French and Spanish and was able to do both French and Spanish. So the students must do 1 course from each of these subject areas, plus the 3 core components for a diploma. A student in the coursework pathway, again, has choice. They can choose to do courses from all 6 of the groups. They can choose to do courses from just some of the groups. They can say, oh, I'm interested in going into engineering, and so my focus is I want to do the English, I want to do the history because I can get units from college for those, but I want to do chemistry, physics, and math. And then in addition to that, maybe I want to do an AP computer science class on our campus that is not an IB, so that I'm better prepared for the engineering program that I want to go into. So this is allowing them a lot of flexibility. When students finish doing any kind of IB coursework, at the end of it, because it is a curriculum-based program, just like with any curriculum-based program, you receive a transcript at the end of your education. And IBO provides them with a transcript on which they have grades. Their grading scale is a numeric scale rather than an A through F scale, but it is still a scale for any IB subject that they complete, and they complete all of the assessments that IBO has set in that. So a student, for example, could choose to say, I only want to do group 2 language acquisition under the coursework pathway and do the French Ab Initio SL. Or the student could say, I want to do the IB diploma pathway, and within the IB diploma pathway for my group 2, I'm going to do the French Ab Initio SL. So the student in the coursework pathway would have a transcript reflecting only that 1 course and the grade that they received for that course, and that's submitted to the university in July of their following their senior year. And the student who did all 6 of the groups would have a transcript that showed every course that they took and the scores that they received on those courses. I hope that helps to explain a little bit. Now, in this document, what you can see further down, and I'm not going to go into each category of it, and that's part of the reason I gave you the acronyms and definitions, is you'll notice that some of them have an assessment at what is known as an HL or higher level, and some of them have an assessment at what is known as an SL or a standard level. The biggest difference is the depth of knowledge that they're being assessed at. But what we have shown you here is what they would have to be in their sophomore year in order to go into their junior year, in order to go into their senior year. And for those who want to do a language B in their freshman year, they would be in a 7-8 honors level. And then you can see the same thing down here. And we see for the ab initio pathway, I've said, our recommendation is actually that they do it sophomore, junior, senior. But as I said, they could do that 1-2 class in their freshman year as one of their electives, and then take a different elective in their sophomore year, and then go back to the language in their junior year. I hope that answers some of the questions. Okay, and I will put the overview document up again.
So I got a direct message, and the message reads, I read that San Diego High has the IB diplomas or 6 pathways. If a student does not want to do IB or any of the 6 pathways, are there other options for students? So I want to first have Nuri answer the IB component.
Well, I think that was actually the reason that IBO established the coursework pathway. It was done in response to a lot of information from students around the world who said, I'm not interested in doing a holistic study, which is what the diploma pathway is. You're doing one subject in each area: English, world language, history, math, science, etc. I really want to focus on what I want to do going towards college. And so the coursework pathway does allow the students a lot of flexibility. We have a lot of students who combine their IB coursework pathway with, for example, I have students who are doing the IB English, the IB language, and the IB history because they want to get university units, and they're very successful with our IB courses. In addition to that, they're doing IB chemistry and IB physics because they're very interested in going into engineering. But what they have found is that the IB math is very holistic, and for engineering, they really need a pure calculus. So they choose either to do AP calculus or to participate in the community college math classes that we offer, which offer calculus AB and calculus, or the equivalent of calculus AB and calculus BC for students who are more advanced in mathematics and have met the prerequisite knowledge. So I actually find that that's why probably 65 to 75% of our students currently are choosing to do the coursework pathway. Just a very small percentage of our students are choosing to do the diploma pathway.
Thank you for that, Nuri. And then the next question I want to explicitly answer is, the IS program is no longer offered, correct? I know that there's been a number of changes at San Diego High. Can we please explain? And do we have an exchange program with France? So the first part is our staff as a whole. We are currently 3 small schools: the School of Business and Leadership, the School of International Studies, and the School of Science and Technology. Last year voted to merge our school effective the upcoming school year, which is the 23-24 school year. And what I can say is, although the names might not be there, the pathways remain the same. And so what we wanted to do was remove the barriers impacting students for accessibility. And so I dropped in the chat for you directly from our counseling website some of the different pathways that will now be fully accessible to all of our students. So I'm going to do a quick share screen. Here we go. And so in this space, you're able to see, this is directly from our counselors, some of the different pathways offered here at San Diego High School. And as Nurit had mentioned, one of the strong components for our students really comes from the world of being able to have accessibility to a diverse amount of programs, including our medical pathways, our engineering pathways, our business pathways. Those are now going to be fully accessible to students across the campus, and that is great news for our students and for our families. And so the website, specifically theschoolcounselor.org, has a section called Class of 2026 that really has a lot of the information that we're talking about. And we're happy to come back to Albert Einstein to be able to explain those components further. But basically what that means is there's no longer a barrier for students to take any of the pathways that they might be interested in, including our culinary arts, our medical pathway, our engineering pathway, some of those being four-year programs, specifically our engineering program, to some of our broadcast journalism programs that are shifting in the world to sports management, where they will still be able to pursue some of our IB film coursework, for example, that Nurit was mentioning. We just wanted to make programs accessible to students all across our campus. That is honestly the major difference. And then do you have an exchange program with France, Nurit?
No, we actually do not have exchange programs with any country. We do have friendship partnerships with some countries where our students have gone in the past to visit. We have a school in Austria, a school in Argentina, and a school in Russia. However, because of COVID, a lot of those things have been eliminated. However, having said that, we do have students who do decide that they would like to go and do a study abroad. Now that they do with their own families, meaning their own families may work with either an exchange company or they have family that lives in a country abroad. A number of the families from AEA have done this, and their students have gone either to Germany or to Austria. What we do recommend is if your student is interested in doing that, so that they do not lose out on opportunities of any of the pathways, not just the IB pathway, but any of the pathways at the school, that if they choose to do that, they do it during their sophomore year. Some may go just for one semester, some go for the full year, but we do recommend that it be done during the sophomore year, because we are able to work with the students, the families, and the schools that they attend abroad to make sure that they're meeting the graduation requirements needed and the prerequisite requirements needed that they need for the majority of the pathways that we have available.
And one of the questions that I had direct message was, so can a student graduate taking a general diploma without doing a pathway? Absolutely. Really, the pathways are there to basically be able to support students' areas of interest and really connect them to certification programs and some college credit while they're going through the process. So we want to be accessible to our students and gain interest from what they like, while also partnering with IBO and community college district. We want to make our students have that competitive edge in preparation for any of their post-secondary goals.
So I see it's asking, can you clarify for a current German language student to follow the IB diploma at San Diego High School path, they would need to enter a second language in French? Stephanie, it depends on the year that the student is in. So we actually divided it very specifically by class of. So students who are in the class of 2023, who are currently participating in the German program, will continue in the German program through to their graduation, should they choose to do that. We will continue to maintain that for them as we move forward. For the class of 2024, we will do the same thing. For the class of 2025 and on, what we are saying is that as a student enters the high school, should they wish to study a language, then the languages offered are French and Spanish. If they wish to study a language to end with an IB pathway, then the limitations are the French ab initio, the French B, and the Spanish B program. Which one of the three the student is put into is dependent on their previous knowledge. If they have absolutely no previous knowledge, they would start at a 1-2 level and do the French ab initio. But language, like math, is always dependent on a student's previous knowledge. So I'm not going to take a family whose student is a native Spanish speaker and stick them into a 1-2 Spanish class. What we will do is we'll do a diagnostic on that student to see their level of not just spoken language and conversational language, but their level of academic language. And then they would be put into the class that is appropriate to that. So I'm not going to say every student has to start at a 1-2 level. And yes, if your student wants to do an IB diploma pathway, they would have to do it with French. And that's specific to Stephanie's question.
And while we're waiting for additional questions, I wanted to do a quick plug. April 16th, Saturday, April 16th, we are going to be hosting an enrollment fair for our class of 2026. So if we can please have a lot of our families come in and pick up packets ahead of time. I know I had Mr. Trackus reach out to me about families who had not received a phone call yet about choice. We are calling and should be done with our phone calls on Saturday, but feel free to send us your contact information. We do have space availability for our class of 2026, and we'd love to support you with that process.
I also wanted to mention, if you have questions specific to German AP testing, German college credit, German organizations in San Diego, German American School Association, German Pacific School, please email me or call me. We are in contact with all of these German schools in San Diego, and we can help you get in touch with them. Questions you might have on AP prep classes. So the students get college credit for their years of German studies. We would be able to help you with that.
Additionally, I do work with a number of the families and have worked over the last 20 years with some of the families who've come from AEA, whose students' goal is to go and study directly in Germany after high school. The expectation that the IB diploma pathway is the best pathway or the only pathway by which those students can go to Germany would have been accurate 10 years ago, but it is no longer accurate today. So I did send to Birgit the information from DAD, which is based on where your student has their academic learning. And from the United States, they do give a breakdown using the AP system. So it's a, which tends to be a cleaner pathway if your student wants to go directly into a student colleague year or into a German university. So we do have, both Birgit and I do have that information for you and are more than happy to share with you. We do meet with families to help guide them in that process. And again, if a student and their family is interested in that, we always recommend that the families meet with the high school coordinator in the second semester of their grade 9 year or the first semester of their grade 10 year, so that we can make sure that the plan for their grade 11 and 12 years best matches where their long-term goals lie.
Thanks, Marie. I have two questions that are on the docket. One of them is, if students are interested in the IB diploma, can they also do ASB?
We have had students who have done ASB. It can be a little bit difficult in terms of there's just the hours of commitment for both things, but it's not impossible. And we definitely have worked with our ASB coordinators to make sure that students are not are not losing that opportunity. Having said that, that means that they do give up on potential other electives, but we definitely encourage them to start off with ASB in 9th and 10th grade, and then as they move forward, they can decide if they want to stay in it or if they want to progress into something else. I do have a direct message question from Neda. Our 7th grader is doing German at AEA right now, but since German is not being offered at San Diego High School and we're thinking of switching to Spanish, can our 7th grader do an aptitude test to see what level he would be placed into at San Diego High School? We would not do the placement test now, but we would do the diagnostic. Is usually done at the end of the school, at the end of the grade 8 school year, or right at the very beginning of the grade 9 school year. We usually recommend it at the end of the grade 8 only because it allows us to have you select the students' classes and they're put into the most accurate classes when we're creating our master schedule. But yes, our Spanish teacher does always set a couple of dates towards the end of the year, usually at the beginning of June, where students can come in and do those diagnostics in Spanish so that they can see for their best placement. The same thing would happen with French.
And then I have another direct connect question right here, message. Do you have a lacrosse team? And I think everybody can see that. Yes, we have both a boys and girls lacrosse team, and I'm putting it on the chat for everyone. We have a lot of sports available, and I'm putting our athletics website, sdcavers.com, is everything you want to know about what sports are available here at San Diego High School. And then I'm also sharing, I wanted to share, there was a question specifically about dual language. And so I'm hitting a share button really quick. So this is what's currently available at San Diego City College. And I'm kind of just scrolling to the bottom of it. Our goal, it's called dual language enrollment, and that is paid for by our district, is to start students off as in 11th grade. If we're able to do it before then, we'll work on those components, but pretty much the first course in German is at about a 5-6 level, and then moving their way through higher levels of German. Normally, our students are able to take one course per semester, so a total of 2 per year, specifically in actual community college, and actually gain the credits while we also pay for their actual books. And so that is why we're working on that agreement, so that San Diego Community College District can support us and giving us those spaces available directly either across the street, which is at City College, or sending us a professor if we have enough students. We normally need to have a minimum of 25 students interested in the course to offer it on our campus. If not, our students would be heading over to San Diego City College, which is right next door to us.
So the question, will German 7-8 class be available in 2022-23 for students coming into 9th grade? Will students receive the 2-year credit for the 3 years of German taken at AEA? Those are 2 separate questions. So the first question with regards to the 7-8 honors level, no. Starting in 2022-2023, the only courses that will be available will be the German, IB German higher level 1 and IB German higher level 2. Those courses are for the current class of 2023 and the class of 2024 only, because they've done all the prerequisite years. You can't just jump into those classes with AEA level German. So no, unfortunately, there will not be any German available for the class of 2026 coming in. Will students receive the 2-year credit for the 3 years of German taken at AEA? That is something that your administration is going to be exploring to make sure that your students could get the equivalent of at least those 2 years on their high school transcript. Based on, they would have to show the district and the California Department of Ed that your students have met the instructional hours and the level and the curriculum that's required. If they're able to do that, then the answer is yes. But right now they're exploring that, and that will be an answer that they can give you as they get more answers from their exploration.
And please know from our part, we do have something that's known as the LOT, Language Other Than English exam, specifically in German, that your students would be able to take. We would just need to coordinate that. And once they pass, they'll be able to meet the graduation requirement, and it would be listed on their transcript at the high school level. They just would not get the credit for it. Now, for the community college courses, because they're at 100 level and above, for every one course they take, that is equivalent to 2 high school credits, and they are weighted because they're above the 100 level, all being transferable units for many of our UCs and CSUs.
So I think at this point, especially for the class of 2026, if AEA doesn't get the answers regarding the transcript, then you do have 2 alternate methods. One is to have your students take the LOT exam, or the second would be to, they actually have 3 options to prepare for an AP language test and show that they get the scores on that. Or the third option would be the community college route that we are currently exploring with the city college.
And we apologize if it's a lot of information. We're here to support you through the process and the transition. Any questions that you may have, Ms. Barty is well-versed and anything needing supports. And then I'm more than happy to send another one of my counselors, Mr. Trackus, to Albert Einstein to support with the transition and articulation process.
And again, if there are questions that come up after we have this meeting, or if there are you have friends or colleagues who were unable to attend this meeting and they have questions, you know, do not hesitate to send them to Birgit. She, if she does not have the answers, she and I have a very quick communication turnaround, usually within, it's usually within a couple of hours, but never more than 24 hours. And so she will be able to get you your answers really quickly.
Thank you, Franny, and thank you, Nurit. I don't see any more questions. Are there any final questions for the panel? Okay. Well, thanks everyone for being here tonight. We'll continue the conversation again, as Nurit said. If there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, to Ms. Schaefer, or to Nurit, so we can be able to provide for you all the information that you need and help this transition be the very best for your son or daughter. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.